we're going to start talking about the root chakra and dive into the essence of the difference in fear and love. Because the only thing to fear is fear itself. And to heal is to touch with love what was once touched with fear. I know that sounds really simple, but it really is. And as sentient beings that are here feeling everything, we either act out of love or fear. And when we act from fear, we're acting from deep unworthiness. And when we act from our values, we're acting in love. So when we look at our hearts, right, it's forgiving, not forgetting, but also being open to receiving. So until we can give to ourselves freely without fear, we will never be free. So why do we hold back from giving to ourselves? Well, it all boils down to feeling safe. Because as fears arise in the body, it is a conscious commitment to deal with them. That is how we liberate ourselves. That is how we free ourselves. What comes up in the present and what feels like terrible things happening in the body, it's really not happening now. It is fear from the past that's trapped inside, that's being manifested to be re-experienced and released. We are manifesting it, in our present realities. In the past, we experienced pains where because of the age that we were or the level of consciousness we had, we were not able to do what we needed to do to feel safe, speak our truth, speak our boundaries, speak our desires. So we shut down, we freeze, we flee, we run, right? That's what we do when we're in fear because our fight or flight comes on. In that moment, it is life or death. And we choose to survive. And when we're in survive mode, the cognitive part of our brain shuts down and the survival part, the limbic part, turns on, which makes us act out of desperation. So then because of that fear, it gets stuck in the body because we weren't really able to process that energy through the body. We didn't yell, we didn't cry, we didn't speak our truth, whatever it was that we didn't do. It's just stored in the body. And then because of that, we have these thoughts that stay in our subconscious program. So we're continuously manifesting new experiences that are similar to the past traumas so that we have the ability to release them from the body and heal and raise our vibration because we're always wanting to expand our consciousness. And I know this is very complicated, but let me kind of put it into example. So let's say that your father was abusive. And when you were a little girl, you were powerless, right? So when your father was screaming at your mother, you wanted to defend her, but you were a little kid and you couldn't. So what did? You ran and hid, right? You didn't speak your truth. You couldn't defend your mom. You couldn't save your mom. So you have two wounds that come from that. This is the mother and the father wound. So let's say with the father wound, you learn to submit and hide, right? You learn to shut down and you learn to hand your power away and you learn to fear anger. What does that do? That makes you make a decision that anger is bad and you avoid feeling anger. So what's going to continue to come up for you? Well, you're going to continue to manifest men that make you feel powerless. Why? Because your father made you feel powerless. And every time that you allow that man to take your power away, it's that same manifestation that's going to keep coming up until you get to the point where anger builds and you finally speak your truth. Now, mind you, we don't need to speak our truth crazily and get in a fist fight or whatever, but anger is coming up to show you that you don't have to be afraid anymore. It's fear's big brother. So in that instant, rather than acting from fear and shutting down, maybe you act from anger. It's a higher emotion than fear. So when things are coming up in the present reality, triggers that are coming up, the most important thing to do is ask yourself, am I safe right now? Is this life or death? Is there a cobra coming that's about to kill me? Is there a wolf here? Do I need to go in fight or flight? More than likely, you're continuing to manifest very similar situations from the past that may not be as scary as you think if you just had the skills and capabilities of looking at it and transmuting it. And that's what we're going to do here. So fears, right? We are born with three fundamental fears. First is abandonment, right? We are coming out of this beautiful womb of unconditional love that's coming from heaven. And then we are shot out and the umbilical cord is cut. So the first thing that we experience is an abandonment trauma. Every single one of us that's born is born with abandonment trauma. Doesn't that make sense? The fear of being alone. It's a big fear for every single human being. The other fear we have is falling and loud noises. I mean, those are just inherent things we get when we're carried around as a baby. So that's a lot of reasons why babies will cry. They're afraid of falling. They're afraid of being dropped. They're afraid nobody's going to be holding them. And then the loud noises, because we came from this harmonious, beautiful place where there wasn't loud and quiet, because we came from the dual state. And now we're in the world of the senses where there's a loud and a quiet and an up and a down, and we don't understand that. So those are our 3 fundamental fears that we have as children. And then we start to build human fears. So what are those? Fear of losing the thing that we want the most, and fear of gaining the thing that we're trying to avoid. Those are really the 2 biggest fears. I really don't want this thing to happen, and I really want this thing to happen, and I'm afraid it's not. The 2 biggest fears we see in the human experience. So if you are running from it, you run into it. And when you run into it, you experience fight or flight. And if you're holding on to this thing and you're so attached to it that you don't want to lose what you value the most, and you don't want to gain the thing that you value the least, it's like you're so attached to the human experience that you can't even see the beautiful mystery in life, and the healing that's happening. The thing you value least has the most pain attached to it. And this is where healing happens, right? Because fear is always tied to a time and a place. And this is the root of depression and anxiety. If we're scared about the future based on an imbalanced past repeating itself, we have anxiety. Because anxiety is about seeing a situation as more negative than positive, taking us out of balance and out of the present moment. At the peak of anxiety, we have symptoms like nervousness, panic attacks, right? A lot of us feel those things. And this is suppressing the fear because you don't want to experience it, so you run from it. But fear brings you to God, the higher power, where you can ask for help. You can also ask for courage, and you can ask for assurance, and you can ask for really anything, and just that everything's going to be okay. And anxiety looks different for everyone, right? There is a story attached to the state of your body. You have this story that you tell. So you need to be kind to yourself through this, because you may feel butterflies in your stomach, a racing heart, numbness in the body, shutdown, freeze, disassociation, loss of appetite, dreading the future, fear of being seen. That leads to weight, like overweight or underweight, avoiding people, irritability, and more. Because when you can't handle fear, it will then turn into anger, causing guilt and shame. And that ends up causing a lot of fidgeting and hyperventilation. So it's really, really important when we're facing fear that we ground. We need to ground, because when we ground, we come into the present moment. Because we will face our fears when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of the unknown. We need to lean into the void, because that's where the magic is, and that's where the realm of potentiality lies. As you know, hurt people, but hurt people can also heal people when they heal themselves. So we can change this world by healing ourselves and then healing others. Fear imprisons you. It keeps you stuck in the past, immobilizing you to stay the same out of the fear of separation and vulnerability. So, we all have fears, but the more we run from them, the more we will overthink and stay in our heads, keeping us from the present moment. It creates a heart wall of energy that takes us out of giving and receiving love when we are in fear. Because you can't be in fear and love at the same time. And this can manifest into all kinds of issues like tumors, UTIs, sciatica, Parkinson's, OCD, impotence, hepatitis, diabetes. There's all kinds of things, ulcers, anorexia, that come from living in a state of fear. And true love takes courage, because true love is the ability to look back at the past with authentic love and gratitude, not pseudo love and gratitude. Not, oh, I'm so grateful, but I'm angry. It really is turning those wounds into wisdom. And this process cannot be done with the brain. It just can't. It happens when we allow the body to move the energy out first. Because once the energy is moved, once the energy and motion is moved from the body, we can change our perspective. And all emotions will pass if we just allow them to be. So stop fighting them. Let them come and go. If we allow ourselves to feel we can reveal what's really going on and heal it. Because once the emotion is gone and we're out of that state of panic, we can look at it from a different lens, from a different perspective, and we can change the thought. So in order to do this, I'd like for you to start to scan your body for fear now. Closing down the eyes, can you place your hands where you feel fear? Many of us feel it on the hips, maybe in the back, maybe in the heart. And can you take deep diaphragmatic breaths, breathing into the fear, asking yourself, what is the primary or secondary emotion here? Is it shame? Is it guilt? Is it anger? Relax your hands and put them in prayer and say out loud after me, Divine Healing Intelligence. Using the red-orange flame, please dissolve all fear, anxiety, worry, restlessness, and powerlessness. Help me release feelings of helplessness, hopelessness, betrayal, and trauma, and find a blessing in every challenging situation. To focus on the best possible outcome for all. Then repeat clear, clear, clear. And start to focus on any images that start to come up, dissolving them, allowing fear to show you why it's here. Are there any memories? And can we be curious about it? As we start to move fear through the body somatically, it allows us to feel safe in the present moment, knowing that we can feel and let our bodies do the work that they naturally know how to do if we can just get the mind out of the way. First off, know that fear is a natural response. It's just second nature. It's survival. But holding on to it creates a lot of tension and blockages in the body. So the goal here is to move that fear out of the body so that we can feel lighter and more free. As I start to mobilize the fear, sometimes I like to see if I can visualize it in my brain, as a color or a shape. And I start to imagine it slowly dissolving and moving out of the body with each breath. Sometimes I bring in animal guides to help me destroy it. And sometimes I connect with my inner child so that she can show me what this memory represents. And I always try to allow her to be heard, seen, and loved. And I replace that energy with light. And when I come back in, it's very important to ground and feel stable and secure in the body. So after I've moved it out and I feel I'm in completion, I like to stand with my feet firmly planted on the ground, imagining roots growing from my feet into the earth, anchoring me into the present moment. And I like to feel the support of the ground, giving all the energy to Mother Earth, raising Earth's vibration. So remember, this is a process. You must be patient and gentle with yourself. The more you practice, the easier it will become to move fear through the body and let it go. And the more you let go, the more that you can liberate your soul and call in bliss.